Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Here on Echo Dev, our objective is to use our experience to be able to bring you some content that will help you progress throughout your career. Just be a junior, mid, or senior developer. Sorry, we've been out for a while. Life has happened. I've had a kid, bought a dog, we moved. So our objective is still to come and bring you content of quality that will help you progress your career. It'll help you apply a lot of the things that you might pick up on other videos or things and how you apply it to your day-to-day job. Today we're going to have a two-part series. We're going to talk about books, some of the books that have laid the foundation and kind of helped my thought process improve, and how that has been able to be translated to my day-to-day job. So we're going to talk about 5 books today, 5 books in the next series. Please let me know your opinion, and let's pretty much dive into it. So the first book, it's probably, there's a little bit more controversy nowadays about that book. It's called Clean Code. That's by Robert Martin. And I think it lays the foundation pretty well for the whole, series and the whole concept of coding in general. The idea behind Clean Code is to be able to look at code and approach it in a way that you understand that it comes from, you write code for humans and not for computers. And I know that's kind of, we kind of think about that. We might even be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But we don't really look at it when we're writing, our code. And the reason, you want to look at it from that perspective is because when you go back to your code, right? This could be on a team, or again, this could be for yourself. In 6 months from now, things could have changed, even the way that you have improved. And you look at your code and you're like, all right, what is this mess, right? So being able to be descriptive about your variables, leave comments where necessary, even using tools and different languages, and like TypeScript, for example, which is a superset of JavaScript, right? Might even help write clean code. It helps you to, put in functions in a way that, there's only one output. It kind of lays that foundation where you want to make your code modular, you want to make your code small enough and kind of self-explanatory, where anybody later can come and pick it up and be able to efficiently add to that in the future. The next one is Code Complete by Steve McConnell. In this case, it's more of a comprehensive guide of looking at coding as a craftsmanship, as an artwork, right? It's like kind of being proud of what you do, in the sense of like making sure that you write it in the best way possible. You make sure that your variables are just not, X and Y's, or, funny animal names or things like that, but actually that the variables, for example, are descriptive, right? It tries to internalize the principles in how you approach coding from a design perspective, and how you become more methodical to eventually become more efficient, right? So being able to use correct variable names is a great, kind of my biggest takeaway from that book. The Pragmatic Programmer by Andrew Hunt and David Thomas. Now, the beauty of the Pragmatic Programmer is that it's practical advice, right? It teaches adaptability, pragmatism, and the importance of continuously learning. And every software developer is always learning, right? There's always a new framework. There's always a new language. There's, Bun 1.0 just came out and everybody's all excited about it. So in our world, new and improved and shiny pretty much comes every day, at every day's notice. Now, there's a balance at the end that we have to have. And the balance lies in picking up new things and looking at new things is always important. And getting excited about new things, of course, is important. But then the applicability of that in the business world and your day-to-day job. Most of the time, it will take a while for a lot of those new things to be able to mature, to be able to kind of settle in, have the right documentation, have actual people, working, finding errors, putting issues behind it, for then later to that be consumed by businesses. Also, it's very expensive to think about if you have to rewrite a whole code base. And for gaining milliseconds of improvement, yes, it might sound great, but in the long run and in the kind of trade-off, it might not be the best idea. There's always a lot of conversations of like React dying, or take a step back and everybody was saying that PHP was going to die. Well, hey, PHP is around, WordPress is around like 67% of the internet is backed on PHP. So if you know PHP today, you can make a good living just, writing widgets, putting up some WordPress pages for people, and even more complex items for them. So the thing is that businesses, while looking at it from a business perspective, not everything can be consumed immediately. It takes a while. But as a developer, you always kind of want to have an idea, take a look at it, read documentation, maybe make a simple application with some of the themes and some of the things that come out that stick for a little bit. Being on the cutting edge is a lot of fun, but it's time consuming. And sometimes with life, in my case, for example, having a kid, having work and everything, it gets a little bit more complicated to stay kind of on the bleeding edge of technology. So in my best ways, I try to, like, at least on a monthly basis, I'll try to find some type of new framework and try to build something very small. So at least I get an idea about it. Lately, I'm definitely going to jump on the bun bandwagon here because it looks very interesting, and see how that looks. That's probably going to be my project for this month. But that's kind of the idea. I mean, as much as I'd love every week, every weekend to stay on the last thing that came out, it's going to be very complicated. So sticking yourself to the schedule, not feeling anxious, not knowing everything. You're not going to be able to learn everything that comes out, and just being able to know and choose your battles, that'll definitely take you a long way. And if you see things that are related to your field, that is even better, right? So maybe you might want to pick up, in our case, Turbo for single mono repos. That's something that we do at work. And that's something that I'm looking into because, again, it's pretty interesting to move from whatever framework we had before to this new one. Having a structure of how you want to learn and kind of picking those battles is what hopefully will make you better in the long run. That's something that you can pick up from that book, The Pragmatic Programmer. Continuous delivery. In the agile environment that pretty much everybody is working in nowadays, right? Everything is agile. I would say there's two parts. This continuous delivery is by Jez Humble and David Farley, and they pretty much want to rely or to kind of let us know a little bit about how we can be best equipped with continuous delivery. What's continuous delivery kind of means working in this agile environment where we usually maybe have sprints, but the most important or the feedback behind it is being able to take consumers' feedback, being able to turn that into features or understanding if that is applicable, building something, and then being able to release it. And that continuous circle in time will improve our product. Taking a step back, agile methodology, we want to make sure that we're doing it right and we have the tools and we have everything set up for that to work. So testing becomes very important because since you're always building things and trying to put them out quickly, tests are going to play a very important role since they will let you know if things break before you put things out. Having a good QA team, of course, is nice. Not all teams, not all companies are able to afford it or have them. So relying on testing is very, very important. Making sure that your functions are kind of encapsulated and they just have one input, one output will help with testing. Having all this idea of understanding and automating and improving the process of software delivery, ensuring that you meet industry standards and you always are exceeding user expectations. All that process hopefully will help your company kind of elevate their product, and with that, you guys will win as well, right? You guys will also grow. It's very important when it comes to agile to understanding the base of it, understanding nowadays everybody's kind of working in 2-week sprints, but most importantly is how those tickets get talked about, how they get pointed, how they get assigned. Those are the kind of the key components of agile, in my opinion, from a software developer perspective. Having a backlog so you kind of know what's coming, and then leaving space for improvements, for red ticket items that might come out at the last minute. There's always emergencies and things. So while agile always means kind of this continuous delivery, you also want to have a process in place. Unluckily, not all companies do have that. Of course, if you're going to interviews looking for jobs, it's always good to talk about that. What is your actual, when you talk about sprints, how do you do your sprints? How do you take your points? How many points does a software developer is expected to finish in a sprint? Do you guys do retros? Do you guys plan the sprint, right? I've seen a lot of companies that, again, agile under the name, but when it comes to actually day-to-day work, it's, there's nothing there that is substantial with that methodology. And the last book that we want to talk about today is called Refactoring. Refactoring by Martin Fowler. Here, you're pretty much looking at refactoring and looking at your code from how can you improve on it without making it too abstract, making it overly complex. This is a classic example that I see is a lot of junior developers. For example, if they have to evaluate X is greater than 5, for example, they will sometimes declare a variable that will say X or is greater or is more, whatever, equals X greater than 5, and they will return that variable. Now, that could, to some extent, could be considered clean code. There's a little bit of opinion there, right? Because maybe you want to give that a name so people know what you're evaluating for, and that's fine. Maybe your function is actually the one that is named appropriately in that case. But you can also simply, return X greater than 5. Just return that evaluation. Will return a Boolean, true or false. Now, I've also seen some junior developers go with return X greater than 5 ternary true or false. Being able to summarize that to just a Boolean where you return X greater than 5 in that evaluation, I think that's a lot cleaner. Now, the thing with code and the thing with these books that we're talking about today is that they lay the foundation, but of course you're always going to have your opinion, right? You're always going to be like, oh, I think that maybe declaring a variable is a little bit better because it tells people what it is. Maybe the function itself has a better name. I don't know. The function could be called evaluating X is more than 5 for some reason. So things like that. So there is a level of opinion, right? But there's also a level of foundation. I believe the books that we've talked about today kind of lay a little bit of the foundation. And then from there, you'll always be able to, of course, have your opinion and make your decisions based off of that. This is just good points to lay on the ground to where to build from, but not the overall Bible that you have to obey and follow, blindly. So there's a lot of room for improvement there. I hope that some of these books are able, they benefit me to kind of get a broader perspective of everything. And I'm open to listen to your opinions. Have you read these books? What do you think about them? What other books am I missing? Now we'll talk about the next 5 books in the next episode, but I'd love to hear your opinions. I'd love to hear, what you think. So thanks again and see you guys soon.